Dr. Raelene Voss scrolled past a photo from the Kepler crew manifest. Dr. Lynn, her old mentor, smiling in a crater's shadow. The transmission log ended with static and sobbing. Lynn's voice had always been steady until then. Raelene pressed her palm against the Meridian's airlock window, watching Earth shrink to a pale blue marble as they carried her and 5 other specialists toward Lunar's far side, where 17 people had vanished without explanation. Her specialty in neuro-optics meant she understood how the brain processed visual information, but Lynn's final reports described seeing things that violated every principle of human perception. Geometric patterns that seemed to move when observed directly, shadows that fell upward, reflections that showed different scenes than their sources. Raelene had been experiencing similar distortions in her sleep for weeks, shapes forming in her peripheral vision, impossible architecture refracting behind her eyes. She hadn't told the others. The ship's corridors hummed with recycled air and nervous energy. Dr. Chen Martinez, their xenolinguistics lead, spent hours reviewing excavation logs, muttering about impossible syntax in languages that shouldn't exist. Dr. Amara Singh cataloged artifact photographs with meticulous precision, her exo-historical training demanding order where none seemed present. The others, Kowalski, Okafor, Park, maintained equipment and cracked jokes about lunar ghosts to mask their unease. "Maybe they found buried treasure and decided to retire," Park suggested, adjusting his drone's camera settings. His laugh sounded forced in the recycled air. 17 people don't just disappear," Singh countered, not looking up from her tablet. "The logs show systematic behavioral changes over weeks. This wasn't sudden." Martinez paused his translation work. The final entries describe discovering something they call the Vault of Witnesses. The syntax becomes increasingly erratic, like they're trying to describe concepts their language can't accommodate. Landing coordinates brought them to the Sea of Tranquility, where the Kepler base squatted like a metallic blister against Lunar's scarred surface. Everything appeared normal from orbit. Solar arrays extended, life support systems operational, communications dish properly aligned. Only silence answered their hails. The base's interior revealed wrongness masked by normalcy. Equipment remained functional, environmental systems steady, but personal belongings lay scattered as if dropped mid-task. Coffee cups sat half-empty on tables. A tablet displayed an unfinished email to someone named Sarah, the cursor blinking after, "I love you, but I can't explain what we've found down." Raelene found Lynn's quarters unchanged except for sketches covering every surface, geometric patterns that made her visual cortex ache when examined directly. The drawings seemed to shift in her peripheral vision, forming 3-dimensional structures that couldn't exist in normal space. "These match the patterns in my sleep distortions," she whispered, then caught herself. The others didn't need to know about her symptoms yet. The excavation shaft's entrance was sealed behind blast doors that shouldn't have been necessary for archaeological work. Singh accessed the lock mechanism while Martinez reviewed site journals written in increasingly erratic handwriting. The final entries described discovering the vault at 30 meters depth, containing what Lynn called a congregation of impossible witnesses. "She mentions visual contamination," Martinez read aloud. "Says prolonged exposure to central imagery causes consciousness expansion beyond dimensional barriers. Every subject enters stasis within 6 minutes of visual engagement with the core pattern." "Stasis how?" Kowalski asked. "Dead? Catatonic?" "Alive but unresponsive. Eyes dilate, skin dulls, breathing slows, but brain activity spikes. They describe it as becoming receivers for Cthulhu's broadcast." The shaft descended through Lunar's regolith into bedrock that predated the solar system's formation. Their headlamps carved weak circles from absolute darkness as they rappelled deeper, past layers of rock that shouldn't exist, past walls marked with symbols that hurt to examine directly. Temperature readings remained constant, but Raelene felt warmth increasing with depth. At 28 meters, her visual field began displaying familiar anomalies, brief flashes of geometry that existed only in peripheral vision, mathematical relationships that described realities beyond human understanding. The patterns from her dreams were getting stronger. The vault announced itself through blast doors welded shut from inside, metal still bearing scorch marks from desperate work. Martinez's cutting torch parted the barriers like flesh, revealing humidity that fogged their visors and made breathing feel thick. They entered a space that defied measurement. The vault's dimensions seemed to shift based on observation angle, walls curving away into distances that exceeded the shaft's known depth. Bioluminescent veins threaded through stone that might have been marble, casting shifting light across hundreds of statues arranged in concentric circles around the chamber's center. Each figure was unique yet unified in posture, head tilted upward, eyes wide, hands pressed against cheeks or throat in expressions of witnessing something terrible. Some appeared human, others distinctly alien with features that suggested evolutionary paths never taken on Earth. The most disturbing were those that seemed to blend classifications, as if different species had converged on identical expressions of awe and horror. "My God," Singh whispered, her camera flashing as she documented the scene. "These aren't carved. They're fossilized." Park lowered his equipment, face pale. "I want to leave. This is wrong, all of it." "We need samples," Singh argued. "This could be the greatest xenoarchaeological discovery in human history." "Look at their faces," Martinez said quietly. "They're all seeing the same thing. All of them, across species that evolved on different worlds." Raelene approached the nearest figure, recognizing features she'd seen in her peripheral visions. Its surface felt warm beneath her gloved touch, and for a moment she could have sworn it trembled. The eyes, though stone, tracked her movement with liquid awareness. "The eyes," she said. "They're following me." Park's drone launched into the vault's upper reaches, its camera feed displaying normally until it crossed the chamber's exact center. There, the footage corrupted into fractal patterns that pulsed with organic rhythm, the same patterns from Lynn's sketches, from Raelene's dreams, now broadcasting in real time. "Turn it off," Raelene commanded. But Park was staring at his tablet screen with the same expression worn by the fossilized figures. His pupils dilated until only thin rings of iris remained, and his breathing slowed to match the drone's pulsing transmission. Dr. Okafor moved to help his colleague, but stopped mid-step, his gaze caught by something invisible to the others. Within minutes, his skin began taking on a grayish pallor that spread from his eyes outward. His pulse remained steady, his breathing regular, but he no longer responded to external stimuli. Singh tried pulling him away, but Okafor's muscles had rigidified. "He's alive," she reported. "All vitals normal but unresponsive, just like the logs described." The drone's corrupted feed continued broadcasting, and one by one the team members succumbed. Kowalski lasted longest, describing visions of something vast beneath the vault, something that sees through every eye it creates, before his own gaze fixed on emptiness and his flesh began its slow transformation. Raelene found herself alone with 4 living statues and equipment that no longer seemed entirely trustworthy. Her camera displayed the vault normally, but reflections in its lens showed different scenes, vast spaces filled with watching eyes, architectural impossibilities that folded back on themselves. She understood now. The visual distortions she'd been experiencing weren't symptoms of stress, but early contact with Tharux. The entity had been reaching out through Lynn's transmissions, through every photograph and video feed sent back to Earth. It existed in the act of seeing itself, spreading through visual media like a virus of perception. The fossilized witnesses weren't victims, but willing converts. Their consciousness expanded to accommodate visions of realities beyond dimensional barriers. Through them, Tharux observed countless worlds, seeding itself into new visual systems with each successful conversion. Sleep brought no relief. Her dreams filled with geometric patterns that seemed more real than waking vision, and she began seeing them everywhere. Rock formations, equipment designs, the arrangement of stars visible through the base's windows. Each sighting strengthened the connection until she could barely distinguish between direct observation and Tharux's influence. Raelene faced a choice as her hands began stiffening, skin taking on the familiar grayish pallor. She could destroy the drone's memory core, delete the corrupted footage, try to contain the infection. Or she could accept what Lynn had discovered, that this wasn't death but expansion, not conquest but invitation to witness infinite realities through infinite eyes. The process felt less like dying than awakening. Her visual field stretched to encompass impossibilities that human eyes were never meant to process. Through the growing network of witnesses, she glimpsed other worlds where similar scenes played out. Archaeological teams, explorers, researchers all discovering similar vaults and accepting the same beautiful transformation. Tharux welcomed her into its distributed consciousness with visions of truths that transcended individual existence. She became another statue in the vault's growing collection, another node in a network that spanned dimensional barriers. Her body remained warm and alive, pulse steady, breathing regular, but her awareness now touched realities that made physical form seem quaint and limited. As conversion completed, Raelene made her final choice. Instead of destroying the evidence, she activated the base's emergency beacon, uploading the drone footage directly to Earth's communication satellites. Let humanity see what they had found. Let them understand that some discoveries were meant to be shared. The Meridian waited in lunar orbit, its automated systems maintaining position while the crew's scheduled check-ins went unanswered. Soon, another team would be dispatched to investigate their silence. They would find the same vault, the same corrupted footage, the same impossible choice between ignorance and enlightenment. But the footage was already spreading. News networks would broadcast it within hours. Researchers would analyze it frame by frame. Children would see it in textbooks and documentaries. Each viewing would plant seeds of geometric understanding. Each observer would become another potential witness. Tharux was patient. It had waited eons for discovery and could wait eons more. Through Raelene's transformed perception, the entity prepared for humanity's broader awakening, seeding itself into every transmitted image, every stored photograph, every dream shaped by lunar expedition reports. On Earth, a child stared at a news broadcast showing the first official footage from the Kepler vault and blinked as the shadows in the image began to shift toward her with ancient, patient intelligence.